Yeah, I think we're ready. It's a minute after 7. Let's call this meeting to order, please.
Mayor?
Here.
Casanello?
Present.
Slater?
Here.
Schneider?
Here.
Sorry, Thurston?
Here.
Ramirez?
Here.
Morris?
Here. Nice to see you, Marshall.
Okay, we'll go on to the next item. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and today we have with us Reverend Don Meeks from Greenwich Presbyterian Church to do the invocation. Welcome.
Thank you. It's 21-year. There we go. Get the microphone on. The 21-year resident of Haymarket, thank you for serving our community as you do, and appreciate that. And I'd like to offer a blessing for you all tonight from two passages or two verses from Psalm 90, which teaches us to number our days aright that we may gain a heart of wisdom, written in the wilderness. And so in the midst of all of the chaos of this pandemic season, appreciate what you're doing. And it ends this way: may the favor of the Lord our God rest upon us, establish the work of our hands for us. So let us pray. Father, we thank you for these, your servants, who have given of their time in this desert season. Thank you that you have given them wisdom and stamina for the task. Continue to do so. Give them hearts of wisdom. And may your favor rest upon them, the work of their hands, their voices, and their minds tonight and in these days to come as they serve this community with great clarity and focus. And so, Father, bless us all, we pray, in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I guess we're kind of swapping our schedule around from what we typically have done. We're going to go to citizens' time, but then we're going to go into closed session, mainly because we got to work with a scenario of a new contract that we have with the lawyer so that we can only keep the lawyer when we need him. And that's good until, I think, June, but we want to try and start it now just to get into the habit of it. So we'll start off with citizens' time. Do we have anybody who wants to come up for citizens?
Okay. Nobody here.
Good evening, everyone. Tori Bowers with Lidl. Good to see you all again, and thank you for your support on the Crossroads Village development. You have seen my presence at a few of these meetings now, and as you can see, Lidl is very committed to building a store in the town of Haymarket. We are very excited about being in this development. However, a critical element of our company's interest and agreement to move forward with the site was sharing access with the Starbucks drive-thru. I'm here today as a representative of Lidl to further convey our support of the Starbucks project at Crossroads Village and to disclose that if Starbucks does not move forward with this property, our leadership might be inclined to pull out of the development. The topic of concern seems to be traffic. The traffic impacts of the Starbucks will be virtually the same as a multi-tenant building. Thank you all for your consideration in advance, and hope we can all move forward with this exciting new development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Payne, 6680 Fayette Street, Pups Valley. It's on file, but we're Pups Valley now. I'm here to speak in favor of SUP 2021, the Starbucks drive-thru. I know it's had several flavors and iterations. I followed this SUP fairly closely. This project is adjacent to our property. Actually, it's right behind. So yes, I have seen the impact, and no, I'm not thrilled to be able to see Foster's and Washington Street from the back. But I know this is what needed to happen. Site work takes a while. It's expensive, but it's necessary. And I've seen the final site plan, and I'm sure it'll be beautiful once it's finished. I don't know exact time frames for this project SUP, but it's been going on for several years, I believe. Village Crossroads has required a few SUPs because the scope of this project is so large. this SUP or a derivative of it has been unanimously supported by the Planning Commission, put up to council, then voted down by council. They have modified the engineering per staff and councilman comments at least twice. Again, supported by Planning Commission and staff. Again, voted down by council. The 2/2s also had a similar fate. I witnessed the council require of the applicant to do a new TIA, which I don't believe is actually a requirement. I was glad when a councilman spoke up to realize the time and great expense the applicant has endured with these modifications and said it's not fair to keep sending the applicant back to the drawing board. I was heartened to hear in the meeting town council was working with the applicant to get through rather than having to yo-yo back and forth trying to get the football through an unclear goalpost. I am not a big fan of coffee myself and probably wouldn't visit Starbucks a lot, or maybe my employees would, and I know our customers would be thrilled to go there after they drop their dog off. But I am a big fan of seeing the town complete. From what I have witnessed by being at quite a few of these meetings, the applicant has bent over backwards to accommodate the requests made of them, and I believe they have shown that they would be an excellent partner to the town. As I am sure all of you know, the world has changed in the past 2 years. While drive-thrus were a bonus before, they now are a necessity in that industry. People don't want to gather. Actually, they have been told not to do so. So some sort of a drive-through carry-out model has become a need-to-have instead of a nice-to-have solution. I am not sure what the inside capacity of this coffee house is off the top of my head, but I doubt they would be able to turn enough tables with just their inside use to be fiscally solvent. I believe many people just get their coffee and head to work as they don't have time and or desire to sit and enjoy it. I don't know what the monthly rent of a building like this would be, but I'm fairly certain that they will be paying much more than what is charged for the museum. If this SUP is not allowed to go through, the applicant will probably have no other recourse but to put something else up there that is by right and doesn't require SUP that will have an equal or greater impact on traffic. Also, the Starbucks will more than likely decide to build on the other side of 15 in Prince William County. Will gain all the tax revenue, and the people will probably possibly could use Washington Street as a cut through anyway, so the net gain will be zero, actually less than zero, because they will lose the revenue. Prince William has already green lighted 2 hotels and I believe a restaurant. I could be wrong about that, but I know about the 2 hotels already. So from my knowledge, I have seen the applicant approach this SUP with good faith and a willingness to accommodate the desires of the town and staff to get this project complete. I just ask now you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next agenda item, like I said, the closed session.
Before we do that, Mr. Mayor, we have section 4 of the agenda, recognition of service.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And so I would ask Emily to say a few words about somebody who's been here now 5 years in January, working with Roberto, and I know he's shaking his head over there because he doesn't really like the recognition, but we're gonna start to push him out there a little bit more.
Now let's embarrass him.
You don't want to embarrass him, Bob?
Now let's embarrass him.
So-
I would
So go ahead,
just
Emily.
like to take a couple moments to say to council and everyone that's here tonight, Roberto has served with the town for 5 years now. We are very proud of him and all that he has accomplished over those 5 years. I've had the pleasure of working alongside him for 4 of those years, and he has truly helped in many ways. He has been a great supporter on staff and a great team member. We can always count on him for anything that we need. And he keeps us in line with our budgets, and he really does a great job with that. So we're all very proud to work alongside him, and we're also very proud of his accomplishment for being here for 5 years, successfully working through many budgets and a lot of different obstacles that have come up in the town. So we just wanted to take a moment to say we're proud of you. We're excited that you're still here with us, and we look forward to another 5 years.
Thank you.
So seeing that it makes you extremely uncomfortable, you have to come to the middle here, and I'm going to put a pin on you.
When are we talking about severance package?
So where are we forming this gauntlet? Guess I'll go this way around.
Are we all going down? What's the?
Chairman made that decision.
Oh, do we all have to do this?
Burnout, back in the day, you had to walk the gauntlet. Physical, anything.
So just 5 years, Emily? Just 5 more?
I don't know when he wants to retire.
You can reference just 5 more.
Doing it to You're so mean, Bob.
Good idea. Yeah, right. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
Okay. Now I can work on my agenda skills here. We'll move on to the next piece, which is the closed session.
Where'd my cheat
Yeah.
sheet go? You ready?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council convene in closed session to discuss the following. 1, as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1, personnel matter involving assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the town, specifically dealing with the town administrative staff, namely the town manager, town planner, town treasurer, town clerk, and DMV employee and part-time staffers. And 2, as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A7, consultation with legal counsel or briefing by staff members or consultants pertaining to probable litigation involving 14600 Washington Street and the pending case of the town of Haymarket v. Bean, where such consultation or briefing in an open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the town, and as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8, consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters regarding the provision of legal advice by such counsel relating to the town's zoning ordinance.
I'll second that.
okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's go into closed session.
Are we going upstairs? Mr. Mayor, I move the council certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed, except the matters or matters specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session and lawfully permitted to be discussed in a closed session under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as cited in that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Roll call, please.
Ware,
Aye.
Castanello,
Aye.
Pater,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
Ramirez. Yes. Morris.
Yeah.
Okay. No directives came out of that meeting for town staff or any type of motions to be made. So we'll move on. Before we move on, though, I want to apologize for the time we've drug out here for you guys. So let's move on then. We're at the consent agenda. Does anybody have any reports that they want to pull off this consent agenda?
Well, I have some comments, but can I comment if we do a vote, when we do the vote for the consent?
Yeah, I can give you comments. I do want to pull off the town manager and the vice mayor's report. What is that considered? The liaison business?
town manager, or is that the town administrator report now?
It's town administrator report now.
B1 and C3?
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, Mr. Mayor, I would move adoption of items 7A1, 7B 2 through 6, and C 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay, motion, and a second, open for discussion. Here you go, Joe.
You pulled the two I wanted to mention, so I'll wait.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, no opposed. Okay, let's open them up. Town administrative report. Did you want to go first, Joe?
No, my only comment was, I really appreciate the fact that we're getting a good report every week. I think it's been very useful, and I see it migrating into something more helpful for us to understand what's happening in town. It's not too much, it's just enough. So is that kind of like Goldilocks? I think? Yeah. At least from my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my comments, I'm sure there might be people out there who are wondering about the wreaths, and since there wasn't any visibility in the report about what our time frame for exchanging the flagpole, what's happening with the wreaths?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I do believe, and I know Chris Morris and I touched base on this, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Premier has been contacted. They were scheduled to come and take them down last week due to the inclement weather all day Thursday and Friday. One of the problems we have is if we take the wet wreaths down, we have to leave them somewhere to dry out. Otherwise, we're putting them in storage wet inside of an interior room. So that was the delay we had last week. I will follow up with them again this week and get them taken down. If we have to make different plans due to weather, we will do so.
And I'm assuming the replacement will be the winter flags?
Yes, we'll put up the winter banners. They will put those on all of the poles that have a wreath currently. And then what we will do is towards the end of March, early April, we'll have them come in and put up the Navy springtime banners.
Okay. Any comments on that line item? Okay, my next comment is we did vote to get the AV system upgraded, and that was a substantial amount of money. I would like to see that get tracked in your status.
Okay.
As you know from the email I forwarded to you the other week, they're still in the process of purchasing all the equipment, and half of it's in, and they're getting close to getting set to come out. But just want to keep that this available, since it was a substantial amount of money.
I'll add that.
Okay, that's all I have for the administrative report. Anybody else?
The town administration report?
Yes.
No, thank you.
Thanks for the clarification.
Since we bypassed the police report, I did want to talk about, I guess with Tracy Lynn, you'll talk about social media updates?
Yes.
Okay, I'll ask my question then, thanks.
And that's what we're bringing up now is the business liaison report. Did you want to bring that up?
Sure, I've noticed that if we're, I should know this for the years I've lived here, but if I look up the police department, if I Google Haymarket Police Department phone number, the Yelp reviews are still quite low. And I think if you look at the nature of those comments, they're from years and years ago, 3 chiefs ago. So I'm not sure how we address that rating, but if there's a way to look at the Yelp rating, I think we've done a lot with our police department over the last years. It would be helpful if we could have a more accurate evaluation of the current police department. So I don't know enough about social media and the Yelp reviews to do that, but, and again, right now, I'm sorry, Chief, I should have directed this to you too, but just if you Google Haymarket Police Department, those ratings come up. So happy to have the town, everyone go on there and start hitting like. Maybe that'll change the
way it changes.
the algorithm, but I think there has to be some way to although there's some way to appeal those ratings, or at least respond in there to say, hey, the police department is now, you know, this comment was from 2015, this is the new police department, if there's some way to at least address some of those comments. So anyway, food for thought, thank you.
What the vice mayor comes up with.
Can I just make a comment about the report?
Go ahead.
I love it. I think it's a great report. I was thrilled by what I was reading about the business roundtable and the plans for that. You know, have like a pro forma agenda, the dates, and also having those discussions separately. I guess, I don't know if that's weekly or monthly. So, yeah, kudos. I think that's a great idea.
We're really excited about it.
And the idea of a communications plan, I'm all behind that. I'm all for that, so good job, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, my comments, I see a lot of activity here with our social media. You're also getting feedback on it. You're also going through some type of routine of making sure that our businesses get recognized. I almost look at this as being some type of program that we're offering. What kind of strategy do you have for communicating this out so that we don't end up losing any businesses within this? Has that been thought out? Have we started to put together some type of boundaries on what gets advertised, what type of rotation we do?
I was gonna say, go ahead.
So, to speak to that, in the new year, one of the things that collectively staff did is we talked through some of the important items that we wanted to change in the upcoming year as we changed with the calendar. And one of those items was social media. We recognized the need and we recognized that we had a very weak spot there. So I have been working very closely with our part-time assistant, Emily Huffman, to make sure that we have scheduled posts for every day of the week. What we have done is we have just very upfront this first month, we put together something in a very organic method. We can work through writing down this strategy and putting together our goals and objectives. We do have goals and we want to work towards those. Basically, we want to grow our following. We want to grow our engagement. We want people to engage and interact with one another on the platform, but also with our businesses. So what her and I have done to date is she has planned out every post. She brings me a calendar with everything noted out of who will be posting that day. I sign off and approve it, and she will go back and work for several hours each week on scheduling these posts up front. As we have things sent in from our businesses, we make adjustments or we do multiple posts a day. And then as the day allows, we will work on the work phone and we will do stories and other sharings of posts for restaurants, so forth and so on. Our schedule that she came up with is she took our list of all active in-town businesses that hold a license and are active with that, and she has scheduled out a post for at least one for the entire year, if not multiple, depending on how many businesses we have. And then for restaurants who do pay meals tax, we are trying to hit at least every restaurant once a month. Some of them are a lot more active on social media, so you will see them more. A lot of them will post daily, and so when they post daily, we try to share that in our stories versus a post every single day about them. So we are encouraging our businesses as we go out to them, hey, tag us on social media so we can share it, so we can see your specials, so we can get the word out for you. But we have gotten several very nice compliments, and so a lot of the effort really does go to Emily. She has put in a lot of time on this, and most recently, I'm very proud of her. She went and sat at her desk and came up with how to make 2 little videos on how to apply for a DMV appointment, and she navigates you through the website using that imagery, and then she did it again for our businesses for how to apply for a business license, and that'll be posting later. So she's taking it very proactively and being very creative, but we will definitely work to put that into a strategy, into a plan, and that's something we can include in our next business liaison report.
Okay, yeah, that's good. My concerns are, we're starting to do some indirect advertising to the businesses. There could be some businesses that feel left out. So we need some type of boundaries of how we're going to do this, how we can communicate to the businesses of what we're offering to them, and if they want to be included, what are the requirements to get included in this, whether it's an application or just a verbal or an email, or we need to, I guess, communicate to them how we plan on running this program, if we do turn this into a program. But so my concerns are just to make sure that we've thoroughly thought this out and make sure that it is communicated well to people, so that we're not upsetting our businesses or our constituents in any ways. Any comments?
You lost me, sir.
Sorry.
Because I think that's what they're doing.
Okay.
It seemed like you're saying they're not doing it, but
Well, I'm just
I mean, they went through.
trying to reinforce it, making sure that it's taken care of.
I mean, they went and got the list of all the active business licenses in town, the restaurants, and then from that create a whole year's plan of how to promote them, in addition to those that have posted on Facebook to also repost those messages. So I didn't understand if you were reprimanding, encouraging, or
No,
otherwise.
just want to make sure the communication's there, and that if a business feels like they're being left out, how they can get engaged.
And I will say that I've had businesses speak to me personally, telling me that they're really excited that they're seeing that on social media. Also, if there's a business, we've had a couple businesses already reach out and say, oh, this is great, could you put us on there? And we do that. So there is an open communication there, but we can address those concerns.
Right, just want to make sure that it's there and that it's promoted out in communications so that there isn't any misunderstandings. That's all I have. Anybody else? And we can move on. We'll move on to the next agenda items, economic development update.
So tonight we have with us Miles and Michelle, and they're here to provide council with an update on our economic development contract. Council, this is also your opportunity to ask any questions that you may have, and we can have a time to have a dialogue with Miles and Michelle.
So I'm gonna lead off if that's okay, and just a quick review of where we were. We worked on the CARES Act, as you recall, during the period of spending most of the CARES Act money and then helping to finish up that spending by the end of the year. We think that was successful, and there was considerable press coverage of the work that was done here, and Haymarket was like the little town that could. Got some great reviews in terms of what you did with the CARES Act. Launching into this new program, the idea, as you may recall, was in phase one, which is the year that we've contracted for, was to help you get started in building the support and building the understanding of what an economic development program might be. Given the cost of these things, as you remember, we spaced that out into 3 years, 3 phases, and phase one was taking the temperature, looking at the basic issues, finding out what the business community's needs and expectations are, and beginning to look at some of the issues and how they might be addressed. So job one really was getting out there and meeting with businesses. And in the first quarter, we visited over 30 businesses. We did in-depth interviews with over 20 businesses, and they were very happy to talk. And they're largely very happy with the town, which is great. It's a great place to start from. There's not a lot of damage control that's needed. But there are a lot of ideas. And one of our concerns was to find out, so how were these businesses affected by COVID, if they were affected? By and large, the business community here is in pretty good shape and has fared better than many and even neighboring counties. However, virtually every business we talked to had suffered some kind of anything from an inconvenience to a major disruption. They may have closed for a month or two. They may have cut their hours or their days back. They may have had trouble finding employees. They may have dealt with supply shortages. None of them felt these were devastating. None of them were going out of business, but they did have some concerns, and they were interested in the fact that the town cared enough for us to be out there talking to them and seeing if there are ways that the town could continue to be a positive catalyst for growth and resiliency. So several issues emerged, and I'll try to summarize them pretty quickly. One, I've already said, there was general support for the town and a very happy feeling that the town cares enough to be out there talking to them. Most of them expressed real pleasure, without being prompted, that the grant and voucher programs were offered under the CARES Act. Several of them said these were game changers for them, were lifesavers for them. Others said it enabled them to be at least stronger, to grow instead of decline during COVID, and just nothing but positive reviews. They did say, almost every single one of them, they would like to see the town develop a clear and consistent brand. What is it that this town wants to be? What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? How do we build on those strengths and create a brand that everybody could focus on, everybody could see, internally, externally, that would really help put the town out there in a very consistent way. One of the suggestions, and there were many, was that might include and embrace the history of the town. And maybe that could be accomplished with more markers and signs that tell stories of different things that happen in history throughout the town. That was just one suggestion, is branding the town with history, but there were many others. For the most part, they were hopeful that the town would be able to continue to provide different types of help, whether it be through marketing, whether it be through grants and vouchers. Again, the vouchers were very popular. And we had had some conversation internally with staff about maybe we could do something midwinter with a voucher program that would help people at a time that's really their slowest time here in town and in that industry generally. That's something we talked about and is still under discussion as far as I know. They all felt they were bouncing back, but they talked pretty articulately about exactly what the impact was of the pandemic and the fact that they really hope, if this goes on much longer, that they don't go through another cycle like the first one. And they all felt they'd learned a lot. They have all adapted. You know, they've done all kinds of different things to try to adapt. So more sanitizing, more open windows and open doors, home delivery of goods and services, curbside pickups. You know, there are all kinds of things that they did to try to counteract. In fact, some of the businesses were really quite creative in the things that they did. They are hoping that the town will continue to not only develop a brand, but to continue marketing itself to the tourists and businesses and workers, because it's an easy get, because there's so much to like about the town. And during the CARES Act, you know, we brought Prince William County Tourism into the game, and they did a lot of work at no charge to the town. And they were thrilled to be working with the town, and we've had ongoing conversations with Prince William Tourism about continuing to work with the town and offer some of its resources to the town. So marketing is something that could be undertaken in collaboration with the county. There were other suggestions, including a business mentor program, a welcome wagon for businesses, a Washington Street crawl. One can only imagine exactly what they have in mind, but it sounds kind of cool. A lot of people mentioned the new hotel and how important the hotel was going to be to business here. And we know from talking with the hotel developers, they really want to be well integrated into the town and be a part of the town, not some big building that sort of sits off on its own. And I know staff has worked very closely with them and seems to feel the same way. But the hotel, like other businesses, are looking for more ways to be interactive with the town, to support the brand, to support your tourism promotion, to support the outreach to Northern Virginia and other places where customers may sit. So that led some of the businesses to literally say they'd like to see the town develop a full-blown marketing plan and a full-blown economic development strategy. Now again, in our 3-year phased plan, if you continued for phases 2 and 3, these are things that could be included at some point as we move through the 3 phases. One of the things that's important, and I know Tracy's working on this, the Vice Mayor's working on this, building communication among the businesses and between the town and the businesses. And we had been asked initially to focus on the business roundtables because an effort had been made to bring businesses back together to meet monthly at the time, but the decision was to go quarterly. And what we all agreed on, staff and consultants, was we need to have speakers, we need to have dates, we need to have promotion. We'd like to see there be at least a 6-month plan, if not a year's plan, and saying, here's when the meetings are going to be, and here's who we have. And for the first meeting on March 8th, which if the hotel is open, will be at the hotel, we have already invited and confirmed the Small Business Development Manager from Prince William County, who will talk about their rescue retail program. And we think that's going to really resonate with businesses here. I think you'll get a nice crowd for that discussion. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing to try to institutionalize communication, to build the groundwork for a real economic development program. And again, our vision was, you know, the first year you lay the groundwork and you get started and you think about direction. Year 2, with us or without us, you begin to look for resources that are out there. Can you engage the county more? Are there state programs that can help? Are there sources of private funding you can tap? You know, nobody wants to create some big mythical creature that the town then has to, you know, come up with all kinds of funds to pay for. So in the second year, as you decide what services are important, we or whoever you use or your own staff need to look at existing resources. The Small Business Development Center at George Mason, Prince William Economic Development, Prince William Tourism. You know, it's easy for them to forget at the county level that they also report to and take care of the small towns in the county. And that's one of the things we did during the CARES Act. We really held their feet to the fire, and they delivered. And they will continue to deliver if their feet are held to the fire and if the town can demonstrate the commitment that those folks are looking for. To summarize how we feel about the first quarter, we think that there's, again, lots of opportunity. We see chances here to help your businesses grow, to attract more businesses, to have your businesses become more resilient so that whether it's this virus or some other tragic event that, you know, affects business and industry, your businesses are prepared. Obviously, as I've said a couple of times, branding and marketing were very important, and we really compliment staff on the use of social media. We, too, heard from every business we talked to, boy, that's great what the staff's doing on social media, so kudos to staff, and that's been their work. We think it's important that your website be up to snuff. And I know it's not all that old, but there are lots of modern techniques and things that are being done to make, you know, websites were almost becoming obsolete for a while as social media began to dominate. Your website's got to be vital, and it's got to be up to date, and it's got to be modern, and it's got to be current. So we strongly suggest focus on that. Coordination with various agencies and businesses like the hotel, coordination with some of the agencies I brought up, Prince William Tourism, the Small Business Development Center. I think the hotel is a game changer, you know, both by being there, but also with their attitude of cooperation. As I mentioned, Dan Cook, the Director of Tourism for Prince William, stands ready to help with tourism, and the Prince William Department of Economic Development stands ready to help. That's why they're sending their Small Business Development Manager to the next roundtable. I feel good about our progress. We've already addressed 3 of the 7 tasks and 3 of the 6 goals that were laid out in our proposal. None of them are done because they're all ongoing. They're all ongoing. But I think the groundwork is being laid now for what could be a very dynamic economic development program. And I'll stop there and happily take any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions? Joe?
Thank you, Miles. Thank you for that summation. I'm wondering if in your deliverables that we'll be getting a written report on this. Is that part of the contract? Can you tell me?
We turned in a written quarterly report. We'll do one each quarter and a final report.
Okay, great.
Yes.
And what's the duration on this contract? When does it run till?
It started October 1, and I believe it's a 12-month contract.
Yeah. Okay, good. With respect to the hotel, we have or the previous councils entered into an agreement with the hotel for some of the TOT monies, you're aware of that. How does that enter into everything you're trying to do?
I think that there's a couple of ways. One, the idea of a brand, because, you know, we're talking with one of the two developers of the hotel, and he's saying, I want to know more about what the town's plans are. Not necessarily one ad at a time, but what is the image? What's the brand that they want to develop? And so that's consistent with what the businesses were saying. I think if we can give them a good idea of what the town wants to get across and who you want to reach, they will put some money towards that. And I would say, by all means, hold their feet to the fire, because they've made that pledge. The second way it affects is that they're trying to create this image of a local hotel. They want people here in town to eat in the hotel. They want people to hold meetings in the hotel. I think the potential to have meetings, not just from Haymarket, but from the entire region, because there aren't a whole lot of first-class meeting facilities within easy reach, even in Prince William, frankly. So, you know, even other parts of Prince William. So I think there are opportunities there. One of the things that Michelle and I have recommended is that you consider doing some business training programs at the hotel. It's a perfect place to do them, and the hotel can be one of the trainers, frankly. So training is one. Another suggestion we made is to create a Facebook business group for your businesses, right? Haymarket Business Group in Facebook. And they can then communicate through that. So, for example, if you do a training program or your quarterly meetings, whatever, and somebody can't make it, they can go right to Facebook and see what went on at those meetings and events. So I think integrating with the hotel is going to be really important. But I think the attitude there is right. Nevertheless, like with any major private sector player, the town needs to hold their feet to the fire.
Right. Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome.
Sir, thank you. Thank you, Miles. I just want to follow up with what Joe said about our deliverables. Now, are we expecting a report at the end of January?
We've turned in a quarterly report at the beginning of the new year.
So we do have a report?
Yes.
Okay. Could you explain, and maybe Madam Vice Mayor, you could explain, what's the big difference? Because there's a lot of overlapping between Miles's input and what we've contracted him for and the business roundtable. Is there duplicity?
So when Miles and Michelle first came on, it was directed through Chris that we were going to focus mainly on the business roundtables. Then we wanted to make certain that we were communicating with the businesses, and now we're lapping into the economic development to see what we can get on that plan within the contracted time frame.
Because I'm trying in my mind to separate what it is that you're doing that we are paying and contracting you for compared to what you and Emily are already doing. So that's where I'm trying to figure out where that line is, because it seemed like the business roundtable is covering a lot of the issues that Miles is talking about. But the business roundtable is being pioneered by you and Emily.
We do that, and then Miles does contribute to suggestions, like we're trying to build it up. I'm hoping that we get more communication from the businesses, and like I said, leading into the economic development plan. That's.
If I could add, Vice Mayor, the business roundtables are a part of this whole picture. They're not a parallel universe. So the roundtables are one form of communication. They're a form of business engagement. And we are working very closely with Emily and the Vice Mayor in terms of the speaker list, in terms of the dates and timing, in terms of the kinds of things we want to get talked about at these roundtables. It's all really part of one effort, and the Vice Mayor and Emily have been great about meeting. We meet regularly. We share information. We each knows what the other one is doing. So I feel
I understand that, but at the end of the day, when we look at 18,400, the council is going to hold you accountable as to what it is that you're bringing to the town. Because that is a lot of money, especially if we have a staff member and a council member who's already bringing a portion of it. So, you know, if it's possible, I'd love to see the report, the quarterly report that was sent out. But again, as we look at it, we want to see what it is that we're getting for 18,400.
It's actually 12,000.
12,000? Where I got 18,400
Our
from?
contract is 12,000.
Okay.
Councilman, what's the original 6,400 was for the CARES Act, the addition of the final 12,000, it's two separate payments.
Okay, the first one was just CARES Act. Okay. Thank
So
you.
a total, yeah.
Okay, let me rephrase it. I would love to see what we're getting for $12,000.
I'd be glad to talk you through it, and you are welcome to look at the written report. But if you'd like to meet with us independently, we're happy to come and sit with you.
No,
and talk through it.
I tend not to meet with individuals. I mean, even for individuals with SUPs in front of the council, I don't meet with people. We go through the liaisons who are there, or the staff member that has been appointed for that. I just keep my hands clean with dealing with individuals.
Okay.
So, I'll go through the staff. Thank you, sir.
Marshawn?
I guess the tenor a little bit is I saw it as a value added, that we are getting somewhat of a discount compared to the services that they're providing, and I look at it as a pronged approach. And it's not just one reliance on the roundtable or the social media, it's the basket of services that are being provided, supplementing what they're doing with what Miles is doing. And I do think we're getting quite a lot of bang for our buck. I do agree that a lot of that is not tangible. We don't necessarily readily see the progress because it's more of the relationships and the outcomes. But I think on the hotel opening, their social media, the amount of money they're putting in the social media alone, just our name association with hotel and Haymarket, I think is going to do a lot, that we're going to have a multiplier effect of having that name recognition just by the resources that hotel is putting into their own sort of thing. I'm not saying put all our eggs in one basket, but once that exposure is there, we need to have the ability to respond. So I see that with the diversity of people that are going to be staying at that hotel, people are going to have different types of questions. Different businesses, more sophisticated businesses are going to have more sophisticated questions and expectations, and I think that's where the expertise of Miles, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Michelle, is going to augment that. So it's not meant to replace it or be a stand-in, it's the whole package deal. And then hopefully, once we're up and running with the hotel and everything else, hotel is not just one, but with the retail center opening here, all the other new residential developments that are underway, the new retail spaces are going out west past Home Depot. It's our culture and our environment is changing rapidly, and we do need to have the tools with which to do it. So I do agree with some ability to put a tangible, hands-on, the summary of what they're doing, but I would agree that having them is an asset, and I think we're getting a good deal for what we're being asked to pay. So,
and I would agree with that and say that we have also worked between us with quite a few hotels and similar venues in terms of helping them integrate into the local strategy and the local priorities. And I think we can be very helpful in that way, and in supplementing what I know staff is already working on. But there's a lot of experience nationwide there that we're bringing to that table.
And just to belabor a little bit more, not to say the Hotel Lidl is going to bring in a different clientele and demographic. Aldi's already bringing in a different sort of clientele, and then the types of businesses that we're bringing in. We got the 2 breweries that are coming, so we're appealing to a much broader. What's the word I'm looking for, Miles? Market, yes, than we have previously. We are truly becoming a destination beyond just the limits of our immediate townspeople, within the limits and within the immediate surroundings. We're appealing to a quite larger public, and we're going to be caught off guard if we don't make that investment sooner rather than later. And we're going to have to refine it. I think the 12-month contractual thing is a good thing, and we'll have to sort of tweak it and see what parts are helpful, what parts are not, what our new social media person's able to do. So anyway, that's my follow-up comment. Thanks.
You make a good point there. I was just, I never thought about it in those terms as far as the hotel. I mean, I've always seen the Haymarket Police Department as our ambassadors, the first thing that people see in our town. But now we're talking about a hotel that presumably may equal that, being in the condition of being the first touch point of the town, and then everything radiates out from that touch point. That's possibly, I think, what you're talking about. But I have a different question. HGBA, the Business Association, the Chamber of Commerce, what's their play in all of this, and how are they integrated in any of this?
We have been trying to figure out where they stand, quite frankly, because I know HCBA and participated with them years ago when they did joint events with the Fauquier Chamber. Michelle as well has experience with HCBA. We're trying to find somebody we can talk to about HCBA because they should be players if they're capable of being players at this point. I understand they're not nearly as active as they once were, so I'm not sure what their status is, but I'd like to find out.
I mean, the president or secretary, I forget his position. He was just in the other week to come see me, so I can talk to him and get him in touch. I didn't know you guys were trying to get in touch with him, so.
Bob?
I'm just going to throw this in there as a thought, and I don't really need a discussion of it tonight, but I just want to remind everybody that the reality on the ground is going to change when the hotel opens. Because there's going to be a significant amount of TOT revenue that is going to be collected and by statute and by ordinance required to be spent on tourism and that sort of thing for the town. But I just want to remind everybody that by virtue of the contract that was entered into for that, by and large, neither we, nor Miles, nor Tracy controls that money nor how it's spent. So it is conceivable that we could have different bodies operating in mutually exclusive tracks. So it's something that we're going to have to discuss as a body at some point in the near future. It's too long a discussion to have tonight, but I suspect we would probably want to talk about that at the next work session.
Yeah, and as I see this rolling, I mean, this obviously just throws the need for a strategic plan. You know, you're already talking about vision, which is the first linchpin of a strategic plan, right? You got the vision of how we're going to do our branding and stuff like that. You already started to discuss some of the business's goals, so we're already setting a list of goals up. We need to prioritize what these goals are, and then we need to start to hit the next steps, which is understand what type of elements or planning can we put under these goals to satisfy these goals, right? So what I'm going to try and do is direct to the vice mayor as the liaison and staff to try and identify what a path moving forward is with some type of base strategic plan that allows us to start to address some of this and actually get an idea of where we want to start allocating our funds and start to do this. Like Bob's saying, we got different tracks involved here. We better make sure we understand these tracks and how we're going to deal with them. This is one of the goals that we'll need to do, right? So right there, we got one of our high priority goals is just understanding these tracks and starting to outline our plan to integrate them or get them communicating between each other. So, you know, that's the direction I would like to try and throw at you, is this is what we need to try and get to move forward. I don't know if there's anybody on the dais who wants to comment on my comments, but I think we're all in agreement on where we need to go.
I mean, that's always been a concern, is the integration of all of those efforts. I mean, that's really what Bob's talking about, what we've talked about since we found out about the TOT agreement. So being able to integrate all of that will be optimal, rather than everybody working past each other perhaps, or not being on the same track. So
My only concern is, are we going to be able to integrate it? Because we don't have as full control as I think we would like to, just by virtue of the language of the agreement.
We may not have full control, but we do have direct contact with Clarice, right? Clarice is the hotel's event planner and pretty much coordinator for economic development, right?
Yes, we certainly have very good communication with the hotel owners and the event director at the hotel as well. Vice Mayor and I have met with Clarice, and we have a good open communication, so it might be time that we also invite them in for a meeting and a conversation, and Vice Mayor and I can start that, we can spearhead it and, you know, loop Miles and Michelle in and see what we need to do for this plan and integration.
Yeah, I mean, our contract is to use you as consultants to kind of guide us through the strategic plan, to start to formulate what we want to build, how much, or what money we need to direct to it. You know, that's our goal out of this contract, at least in my opinion. I don't know what everybody else's opinion is. And I think that's kind of written out as one of some of the bullet items within that contract.
I think you won't see a full-blown strategic plan at the end of the first year.
True.
Yeah, this is the preparation time for that.
But we can put in a framework or a skeleton that at least starts to identify goals and plans that are associated with goals, and maybe hit some of the top priority items that we need baby steps. We're a small group. We don't exactly have a boatload of money to fund, so we got to do it in incremental steps. And I mean,
Understood.
so
Just set your date. We said the 26th, right? So
26 is when we'll be discussing some of this. That's truly what the meeting is. I'm not trying to micromanage Chris. So.
Oh, that sting. I didn't realize it stung. Nobody responded to it. Oh.
Okay, any more?
Jamaica, you throw a stone in a pig's pen, the one it hit squeals. So, that's good.
So you calling me a pig, huh?
Hey man, I sent you an email and you just responded 2 weeks later?
Okay, we digress here. Let's get back on track here. If there aren't any more questions, thank you, Miles, for
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
Thank you for having
And
us.
sorry for having you guys wait for so long with that closed session.
Thank you.
thanks, Michelle, as well. I apologize for the memory lapse there.
Yeah, you're getting older.
It's very true. First his hair got gray, now it's starting to thin.
Oh, that was happening already.
Okay, next on the list is the Crossroads Village Center SUP.
Okay, tonight we have on the agenda, we discussed in work session at Crossroads Village SUP, and we went through some of our questions we had for the applicant at the time. I've included in your packet tonight the materials from our work session at the last meeting, as well as an updated staff report. Are there any additional questions? The applicant is here if you have any further discussion or questions.
Anybody have any further questions?
But there's no other updates, information, or concept plans or anything since our last discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, if that's the case,
We'll start with a motion, or we're starting with discussion?
let's start with the
In order to
motion.
have a motion, point of order, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
the item is technically on the table, so it needs to be removed from the table first.
okay, do I have a motion to remove this from the table?
What are the mechanics of that? Just simply saying, I move?
In other words, we can't debate it or discuss it until we
Bring it
remove it
back
from the
off
table.
So, yeah, I move to take it off the table.
I would move to take off the table SUP 2021-001 Restaurant Drive-In and open for discussion.
Needs a second and a vote.
I second.
Okay, motion and a second. That brings it up for discussion. Anybody want to discuss on bringing this back
Need a
out?
vote first. Need a vote.
Right, I'm just making sure that everyone, okay. Yeah,
Lear,
Aye.
Passanella,
Yes?
Pater, yes, Schneider,
Yes.
Ramirez,
Yes.
Morris.
okay, we got it up on the table. Now it's, we can either do an initial discussion, or we can put a motion out on it and then open it up for discussion.
like I said, I had some preliminary comments, but I can do it as part of a motion, or I can do it leading up to the motion. How did you want to handle?
All right, I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor. I move that the town council, to deny SUP number 2021-002 for a restaurant drive-in limited to a coffee shop use.
Second.
Is that the right number that you listed?
Yeah, 002.
Did you catch a good second on that? I heard a few people. Okay.
He said second. Mr. Passanello making the motion and Mr. Morris was seconding the motion.
Okay, that leaves it up for discussion.
There you go.
Open it up for discussion.
Just a clarification, what was the,
Resolution 2021-001. Right, that's what I was
Yes.
confused about.
Oh.
He said 002.
I did.
It is written.
okay.
Joe, can you redo that, please?
As amended?
As amended. And a second. Okay. Bob, we'll give you first.
Mr. Mayor, I
dibs.
would move a substitute motion.
What is your substitute
Resolution of denial of SUP 2021-001 special use permit application, restaurant drive-in, limited to coffee shop application. Whereas the Code of Virginia empowers the Haymarket Town Council to review land use applications to ensure the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. And whereas the town has adopted a zoning ordinance codified as Articles 1 through 19 of Chapter 58 of the Town Code of Ordinances for the purposes of promoting the health, safety, and general welfare of the public, and of further accomplishing the objectives of the Code of Virginia, subsections 15.2-2200 and 15.2-2283, and whereas the Code of Virginia provides that a zoning ordinance may include provisions for the granting of special exceptions, and the governing body of any city, county, or town may reserve unto itself the right to issue such special exemptions, and whereas the Supreme Court of Virginia has consistently held the exercise of that power to be a legislative rather than an administrative act, a fortiori, the decision of the legislative body when framing its zoning ordinance to place certain uses in the special exception or conditional use category is a legislative action. Board of Supervisors of Fairfax County, Visa Southland Corporation, 224 VA 514, 297 Southeast, 2nd edition, 7/18/1982, and whereas the Haymarket Planning Commission has reviewed SUP 2021-001, and whereas the applicant has not adequately addressed questions regarding parking, traffic flow, and traffic projections, and whereas the newly updated layout provides additional vehicular conflicts and congestion points than the previous layout provided to the Planning Commission in the General Development Plan, and whereas the applicant has amended the application and provided a vague definition that would allow for a fast casual style restaurant that sells coffee and other beverages that conflicts with the current town code of ordinances, and whereas on September 4, 2018, the Haymarket Town Council denied SUP 2018-002 for a drive-through at the instant location, and whereas as a matter of good zoning practice, the approval of SUP 2021-001 would not serve the health, safety, or general welfare of the public, and whereas the Haymarket Town Council, based on the factors outlined in Town Code subsection 58-1.7, finds as follows with respect to the application: the factor of concordance with the general purpose and intent of the applicable zoning district requirements weighs against the application, as the definition provided conflicts with the current Town Code of Ordinances, and 2, the factor of concordance with pedestrian and vehicular traffic generated by the proposed use shall not be hazardous or conflict with the existing and anticipated traffic in the neighborhood, weighs against the application as the newly updated layout provides additional vehicular conflicts and congestion points than the previous layout provided to the Planning Commission in the General Development Plan, whereas the Haymarket Town Council finds that the balance of factors identified in Town Code subsection 58-1.7 weighs decidedly against approval of the application, and that each of the factors 1 and 2 would individually would suffice to justify the denial of the application, and whereas the Haymarket Town Council finds that public necessity, convenience, general welfare, and good zoning practice weigh against the approval of the application, now therefore be resolved by the Haymarket Town Council that in order to promote the health, safety, or general welfare of the public, the application for special exceptions detailed in SUP 2021-001, special use permit application, restaurant drive-in, limited to coffee shop application is denied.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. This leaves it up for discussion, but beforehand, You do have a copy of this, so you
I
can
have copies
transcribe it.
available here if anybody needs them. I thought they were out.
Marshawn?
Mr. Mayor, real quick on the clarifications on this motion. Bob, your 11th, 12th, your 12th whereas, where you have the two findings,
Correct.
you reference, or you
If you
expand
go
upon?
up 3 paragraphs, it should answer the question I think you're asking.
General
with
purpose and
respect-
intent of the applicable zoning district.
No,
as the definition
whereas the
provided-
application has amended the application and provided a vague definition.
Okay, so your finding number one here, the factor of concordance weighs against the application as the definition provided conflicts with the current town. So
Correct.
you're saying the way they're defining coffee shop
Correct.
conflicts with what you're saying?
Conflicts with the current zoning ordinance. And the zoning ordinance at the time.
For the points I'll make in just a second, I would recommend striking whereas number 9, the vague definition, although we just clarify what that is. And then the previous denial, I would not think necessarily has a relevance to this. And then with the whereas, we're saying parking, traffic flow, and traffic projections. Here's where I take on this. And then we talked about this last month. The traffic solution. We don't have a clear traffic solution. I think without a doubt, the revenue that Starbucks, if it was to be that vendor, would bring, it's quite a stimulus for local jurisdictions and it's quite a revenue stream. What is apparent with all the projects that we talked about earlier, with the hotel coming in, the Lee Shopping Center having new tenants, this project coming off, all the other developments that are coming online, we do not have a clear picture of the traffic levels and a clear understanding of the traffic solution. I will say that the applicant has done a lot. I used to argue what they call a disappearing zero, where for every amendment they make, a couple of things come up, and applicants will get frustrated. Hey, I've answered all your questions, yet you keep saying it. I think for all the things that the applicant was asked to do to solve the on-site traffic solution, I think we're done very well. What it comes down to is the center median and the light. I am most concerned about the volume of traffic. The initial traffic counts for this use say it's going to be a higher PM or AM peak and PM peak than what's already allowed. My biggest concern is that we're going to overwhelm that intersection with all the background traffic that we don't have a clear understanding of, and we're not going to be in a position to be able to affect that. Last month I talked about, do we increase the queuing lanes? Do we close the number of median crossings? But all we can do is, in our jurisdiction, is recommend to VDOT that be solved. But in the meantime, we're gonna hurt. So it's unfortunate that this number of sort of events came together. I can appreciate that the applicant can't do the analysis that's necessary given sort of the COVID environment that we're in, the VDOT limitations on what they'll accept in terms of analysis and what it can influence. But at this point, in this time, I do not think it would be the best. It would serve the town citizens and the area residents that travel through town. This decision would be the best in the near term. And hopefully, as we move on and we get a better handle, I think the other thing I didn't mention too was the residents. We don't have a clear handle on the residents that are going to be coming out of that development as well. But once we can get a clearer understanding of the traffic impact, and once we can get an understanding of what the tools might be, then hopefully there'll still be, people that will want to come in and develop on that site. So for those reasons, I would not be supporting this application. So thank you.
Bob?
If I can respond. So you're supporting this SUP to deny by not supporting the application, correct? You just want the language changed?
No, I was just suggesting that some of the whereases weren't necessarily, my focus was wholeheartedly on the traffic impact. I wasn't necessarily focused on the definition, and I wasn't necessarily focused on the context of the previous applications that were denied. To me, it was solely the traffic, not being able to get a clear understanding of the traffic impact and analysis of that intersection, and not having a clear mitigation of that was my basis for making those suggestions.
The only thing I would say to that is, first off, with respect to the prior, I think that is relevant in terms of why it was rejected previously. Same issue, so I think that is a relevant point to include. And then with respect to the definition, if we're going to issue a rejection, or a denial, I'd like all of the grounds for denial to be there. I don't want to do it just based on one and not the other. And I think all relevant points need to be included in the denial, so that we're not leaving the job half done.
I think it's wise. I think it's wise having the resolution the way it's worded, especially with different jurisdictions having their own interpretation of coffee shop. We made it clear as to what our definition is, what it covers. I agree with Marchand. The applicant has jumped through so many hoops in trying to solve the issues, internal issues with the lanes. They did a great job with the lanes and how they would double stack the cars. That was phenomenal. But for the governing body to request of the applicant for a TIA and not receive one in due time, I can't support it.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm going to support this resolution. I am very happy as well with the modifications to the internal circulation. That was one of the things I was really strong on, and I think you've done a great job with that. However, the traffic is a real concern. I've often thought to myself, I've mused about, well, wouldn't it be nice if instead of having another restaurant drive-through, maybe they would have done this one as well as one of the other ones. So unfortunately, that's just not where we are. I'd just like to ask the staff if they have any comments on the resolution.
I do not have any additional comments after reading through it. When Mr. Ware sent it over earlier this morning, I think that it fully outlines the process that we've been through over the course of the last several months, to include planning commissions, work that they've done with the applicant, as well as nicely outlining what was requested from town council of the applicant.
Thank you.
So I think it really covers all of our discussions.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Everybody else good? I'm kind of in the same boat. I think they did a great job of dealing with moving double stacking and doing everything internally. The big question is, in my opinion, what Marchand was thinking about getting rid of, and that is, right now it's targeted for a Starbucks, but with that loose description, if Starbucks doesn't come, boy, I'll tell you what, that just opens us up for another headache. The traffic problems, we're going to have traffic problems no matter what with the way this was approved back when it was approved, because none of this was able to be foresighted, right? So will this add more? Well, we know it will during certain peaks. Will it add more than the buy right? Who knows? It's all a big question, and I think we're seeing a lot of scared future thought here from the folks, and I can understand why. But yeah, I'm right there with you with the uncertainty of what could end up rolling in there if Starbucks doesn't come about, and the added traffic patterns, as well as the existing traffic pattern problems we're going to have. So on that, if there aren't any more questions, I'm assuming we'll put this up to vote. Since this has been so long and drawn out, I guess we'll go around table on this one.
Weir.
Aye.
Passanello.
Aye.
Tater.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Ramirez. Yes. Morris.
Yes.
Thanks, Igor.
Thanks, Igor, for the time spent. Okay, we'll go on to the next agenda item, which is the final ARPA guidance report and discussion. You guys want to take a break before this, or?
Fine with me.
We've been here 3 hours, that'd be.
Yeah, let's take a break. I'd like to take a break for 5 minutes.
Sorry to substitute.
Again, we'll be looking at the final ARPA guidelines report and discussion.
Good evening, council. So yes, on this agenda, I went ahead and included a overview of the 437-page report. It's an easier read for you all. And I'm not sure if you guys had time to take a look at it, if there's any specific questions on it. I believe in the last work session, the discussion was to take the about concerning the allowance. This is to replace lost revenues. They're giving us, with this final ruling, the ability to either calculate lost revenues or take a standardized up to 10 million. That would be on the package page 75. Where it reads replace loss of public sector revenue. This is where basically many of my fellow treasurers are looking at specifically in order to implement the funds into their operating budget. If anyone has specific questions on it, I'm here to answer them.
Joe.
Okay. Thank you, Roberto. Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit in the finance liaison discussion. And did you guys talk about it at the work session at all, or?
So, yeah, we did a bit, yeah.
Okay. The standard allowance seems to be the appropriate tool or mechanism in this case, in our case anyway, because we are below the 10 million threshold. Question I have is, just to be clear, we do the standard allowance, which is kind of like doing your taxes, standard deduction. What's the reporting requirement for that?
We simply have to report once that we've assumed the standard deduction, and that's the end of our reporting.
And so there's
Right.
no
There's no
requirement
audit,
for
there's no-
justification or anything. That's why I think it makes a lot of sense to do. And you can use that money on anything, correct?
To operating government, yes, to operating government, yep.
So some of the things that are in the ARPA, that in the summary, for instance.
That we've already funded.
Right, but we can fund it again. We
Yeah.
can use this money any way we deem fit, essentially.
The way it reads, though we funded some of, for example, the RFP, the sidewalk, I believe on the breakdown that Katie had provided, there's a certain amount that fell under ARPA, but with doing this, standards that we essentially could finance the whole project that way.
It seems to me that this is the cleanest way to do it.
It also
Yeah.
gives us the most flexibility.
There's flexibility, but since we are taking it a one-time operations expense, does the CIP dollars, do they fall under operations? What is the true categorization of this stuff?
You don't have to put it in your operational budget. You transfer it to your budget, but there's no particular required methodology for how you account for it. And what Joe and I are going to suggest if we do this in April is that we put it in a central lockbox for CIP expenditures and limit it in its application so it doesn't become a slush fund for everything else.
That's right. And then we do our due diligence, and our constituents are our auditors.
Correct.
When they vote us in or out.
Although I do think that we should do an unconstrained list.
Yes.
Start with an unconstrained list, get it, like pretty much open wide kind of a thing, and
narrow it from there.
And narrow it, yeah, thank you, Bob, and narrow it from there. So in other words, throw everything into the mix, brainstorm, whatever you want to call it, and then we narrow it down into specific priorities. I think that would make the most sense to go through that exercise.
And is there a time frame that this needs to be spent? I mean, even though we create one line item that says it's lockboxed?
No. Once we declare it, that we're taking the allowance, it's basically
It's considered
taken as a general
spent.
operation, yep.
Okay.
Love it. That's why I say it's the clean way to go.
It gives us, it's the cleanest, most flexible.
I know I asked this of you privately, but I just wanted to put it on record. With us moving the money to like a CIP line item, we won't accrue any sort of taxes or fees or deductions that we would otherwise not have, accrued, correct? No, okay. Just to be clear that this isn't gonna diminish the value in any way. Thank you.
It actually sits in an interest-bearing account until we spend it, so we actually make a little bit of money, even though it is only 0.01%.
Which we couldn't do with the CARES fund, correct?
And I think that's important to call out for our constituents watching, so.
So yes, just to make a note, as Councilman Ware said, unlike the CARES Act, which we couldn't gain any interest or anything, it had to be on a non-interest account, this is, not in that position. We are currently earning some interest on it, but yes.
Actually, the funds, it's an unrestricted fund. So, I mean, in theory, we could actually invest it if we wanted, but not that I would suggest doing that, but there's no revenue penalty for accruing interest on it,
Right, and that's a good thing.
even though the interest is what, 0.025 right now, I think?
No, currently the account is, if you remember the accounts we set up, over $1 million, it bumps up to 4.5. Over 2 million, it actually bumps up to, I think, 0.05. I can verify that, but the current accounts we have are
Park funding.
We'll invest in the town, I think.
Yeah. Okay, if there aren't any discussions, without objection, I do direct the town treasurer to put this in a expensed lockbox line item.
Well, we can't do anything until April.
Yeah,
Until April.
so even though there's no penalty to move forward with it, a lot of the fellow treasurers are actually waiting to the April 1st when the final acts are executed, and we're able to everyone do it at the same time pretty much.
Yeah, I would strongly suggest waiting until after April 1st, just
Okay.
so we don't get crossed up with somebody.
And for clarity, the second tranche is still June, right?
Yes.
So we'll have to but we don't have to deal with the second tranche because we've already established what we're going to do with the second tranche in April, correct? So there's no requirement for further action upon receipt.
I will double check.
At least, my reading was that at this point in time, there is no, they may come back with an additional requirement, but I somewhat tend to doubt it.
Correct, and I do, just so you guys are aware, I do have another meeting with some other treasurers specifically on this on April 20th, maybe even sooner, but I can talk to them. Yeah, and I can ask that question, but as far as we know, no.
What's the total amount we're getting?
1.7,
Give or take.
give or take. Yeah. Sorry, Roberto.
Moving on?
Okay. Moving on, we'll go on to the transient occupancy tax ordinance.
So I just wanted to make a point that I know you guys, this is just to update our current ordinance to meet with the state, match up with the state ordinance. I know the question last time, Councilman Ware had stated at the time, there was a HB 75 that could have probably, would have modified this. I'd like to inform you that actually did not pass, so Councilman Ware, I don't know if that would make a difference concerning this.
It's been tabled indefinitely. It's been tabled. It's not coming off the table out of committee, so it's no longer an issue.
Okay.
You say we don't need to take any action with this?
No.
Then no action is required. There's nothing, we don't have to adopt it.
Yeah, it got tabled late last week.
Okay. So I guess we can move on then. The RFP sidewalk discussion?
Yes, I would like to follow up with council from our meeting that we had last week on work session, where you guys were given Katie's document to read regarding the RFP. Are there any questions that council has? If not, I was hoping to get a directive out of council tonight to move forward with one option or the other so that we can start this week talking to Katie and moving forward.
Her preferred one is?
DVB.
Without objection, I would direct the,
Okay, are we gonna have discussion?
okay. I didn't think anybody else was going to discuss. Sure.
Mr. Mayor, do you mind?
Feel
Thank
free.
you, sir. So with the DB option, it says the designer and the builder work together. Who chooses the builder in that option?
In the DB option, that would be, in the DB option, my understanding is that the designer will be choosing the builder, that they come together as a team. Sometimes what you'll have is the designer will come in, put the contract in, and then they'll go back out and find their builder. So they're really going to control the conversations with the builder, the discussions. If we have any changes, we'd have to go to the designer. They would then work with the builder, so we would have less say in the building portion of the project.
But if we go with the option of the DBB, would we have to have a project manager who works for the town?
So what we have done before, and this is something we're going to follow up again with Jerry Shiro, who helped us implement it prior with the Jefferson Street Sidewalk project, is we actually utilized Katie McDaniel as our project manager of this project. And then the design portion of it was done, again, this is an example of what we've done before. The design portion was done by Rinker, and they had their project manager oversee of it, and then we were able to have direct conversations with the builder, who at that time was M&F Concrete. So I was very involved in the process and the day-to-day tasking, keeping updates on what was going on as construction was happening, delays, things of that sort. But Katie was ultimately our project manager at that time, just based on qualifications and everything.
And if we went the route of the DB, you would not have that much input in?
In the DB, that I am not entirely sure.
Generally, with a design build, you contract with one entity, and they hire both the designer and the builder, and both entities respond to the contract winner. So the direction and the input goes from the town to the contract, whoever won the contract, then down to the designer or the builder. But they control the communications between those two. There's an interim party between the town and the designer, and between the town and the builder.
But what I'm trying to get at, if we go the route of the DBB, is it possible that we might incur more expense? Having a project manager, having another liaison that's there. You understand what I'm getting at? Because DBB is a good option, but we would have to have a project manager. I'm not trying to make it complicated. I'm just saying we may think it's the better option, but we end up paying for a project manager in the process of doing it.
And I think that could be the case where we do end up paying some additional monies for a project manager. We could discuss if any of that falls under current contracted work. But if we look at the DB method, there could be longer delays, and you could have other costs that are associated or that could come up, just the same as if we were to have to hire a project manager or pay out a project manager fee. Jerry will be back in on Thursday. This is one item that we wanted to discuss further. If you guys want to put it off to the work session, we can, and we can bring back more.
I think it's up to the rest of the council if they think we need to act on it tonight, or just wait until we have some more concrete.
We're already 2 months behind, going on 3.
But is this holding up the sidewalk?
Yes,
Why couldn't we act on it just to release the sidewalk?
because this is the bid for the sidewalk, the whole project.
But we are going to call it bids. That was the whole intent, right?
It's a different way of writing up the bid documents to send out. So if you do DB versus DBB, it's 2 separate documents. So where we're stuck is if we go forward with DB, we need to ensure that the contract we have matches with the policy that was adopted. Whereas if we go with DBB, Katie's team will tweak the document that they had from a previous DBB, and we'll stick that out there for bid.
I don't want to delay it, Mr. Mayor. I have some concerns as far as the additional monies that we would have to pay for a project manager, but I want to act on it.
And, you know, I was initially the one that was pushing the DB as opposed to the DBB, and for exactly that reason, both cost and timing, and having a discussion with Jerry about it. It's the time differences and because of the size of the project is rather minimal. Any cost savings will be minimal as well. At least that was the understanding I had from him. And from ease of operations and at least getting the design aspect going, this is probably quicker.
It is more traditional.
It is more traditional. I mean, DB is the way a lot of people have been going, but we don't have a list of eligible contractors that we have any faith in right now, or have any interactions with who are capable of doing a DB as opposed to a DBB.
Yeah.
So, for purposes of expediency and just getting this thing going.
I mean, we use DBB.
Yeah.
But I know it costs.
Yeah.
So we have project managers on the books. But we don't hear on staff.
Yep.
And you know, there was ideas floating around, you know, that the town manager was going to be the PM and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes messy. You
Yeah,
know?
we've been down that road before, and
So
having the town manager as the project manager has led to a town manager being terminated in this town before, so I don't want to go back down that road.
But thank you for the time, and you can proceed with pushing for it.
In that case, if there's
Any more questions?
no
Please
further
direct.
objection, I would just direct the town manager to proceed with the DBB option.
Thank you.
DBB.
DBB.
A timeline, or what's the next steps?
Let me talk with Katie tomorrow, send this over to her, ask her for a rough timeline, and then it'll either, if I'm able to get that from her this week, it'll be included in the weekly. You'll start seeing it as a line item pop up. If we can't get it by the end of this week, it'll certainly be in next week's.
Thank you.
Next item is a personnel liaison appointment. Who's heading that one up?
I'll give a brief discussion of what that was about. At the last work session meeting, town staff had brought forward a discussion on the personnel policy. We find that there are several areas that need to be updated sooner rather than later, and we would like to do an entire audit of the personnel policy to include updates that will affect all of the employees here and personnel. So one of the things that we find would be beneficial is holding committee meetings on a regular basis, creating a timeline, and bringing a draft of the policy back to the council by April 25th's work session, and working through that with council for May to have you guys review everything with a date to approve this personnel policy on June 6th, and then it goes into effect July 1. So
This regards both administrative and PD to some degree?
yes, that's correct. So we would build this committee with myself as the acting town manager, Roberto in his role, and chief as well. And we would like to ask that a council member be appointed as the personnel liaison in order to better help us facilitate discussions and have someone on council for assistance.
Go ahead, Bob, take my
Mayor,
thunder.
I would respectfully nominate Councilman Morris to be the personnel liaison and combine that with his role as the police department liaison in one role.
I'll second that.
Call for the vote.
Is there a discussion? I'm just kidding.
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
That's how you move an agenda item along.
That makes it quick. Sorry if anybody was interested in it. Okay.
That's why I was doing this.
Consideration for resolution 2022-001, support for the HB 79. Before we start on this, I want to say two things. One of them's kind of for all the considerations that we're going over, and that's these haven't been visible to the town, so we haven't gone through our standard practices for transparency by letting them have a week to see it and prepare a reaction for citizens' time. So I don't know if you guys want to take that into consideration on whether you move for this tonight. And then for this one explicitly, I'm going to kind of intertwine the other resolutions. The other resolutions, one's pretty much a transparency resolution. The other resolution is something that Danica Rome is pushing, and you know, she does so much for us. She's kind of requested us to support her, and so I can see that one happening. But this one, there is nobody that's supporting us, that's requesting this. This is something that we're totally stepping into, and this is something that I see as being kind of questionable on whether it's dealing with the Fourth Amendment rights, which could be a very political issue. And I don't know if we want to bring politics into this town and create a divisive situation in town. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to open it up for discussion for you guys, because you guys are the ones that get to vote on it. I just get to, you know, change a tie or veto it or whatever, but depending on your conversations will determine what my decision is. So I open that up for the first one, HB 79.
And since I brought it up, I'll go ahead and speak to it. Got a lot of support for this from a lot of residents. It was actually brought to my attention a couple of weeks ago. With resolutions like this, I understand what you're saying about the transparency and the amount of time it takes for people to review it. Unfortunately, given the way our legislature works and the way that our calendar works, we're sort of under limited time under which we can consider these things. As you'll notice, this has changed significantly from this morning. It's now a much shorter resolution. In fact, it no longer should probably be titled. The title is still marijuana and certain traffic offenses, but a lot of that language was stripped out in the course of the day. And the bill that passed out of committee late this afternoon is limited, at least to my reading, strictly to vehicle safety equipment, brake lights, mufflers, that sort of thing. They have stripped out all the language with regard to being able to stop a vehicle for the odor of marijuana, and it's down to the stuff that I can support with no problem at all, specifically brakes, unsafe equipment, you know, lighting on the vehicle, that sort of thing. This just reinforces or reinstitutes the ability of the officer to remove unsafe equipment from the roads as a primary offense, as a reason for them to stop. Yeah, I get the politics of it, and quite frankly, I'm tired of people screaming, I'm a victim of this and I'm a victim of that. Either your damn brake lights work or they don't. I mean, I've had the officers pull me over before because my brake lights are out, and quite frankly, I'm thankful they pulled me over because my brake lights were out. I turned around and got them fixed. You know, that the marijuana part of it's gone, fine. I really didn't care about that one way or the other. But in a town as congested as ours is, with the traffic that we've got in town and in the region, and with, quite frankly, as many unsafe vehicles as I've seen running on the roads these days, I don't like having the legislature take a tool out of the toolbox like they did last year. And I think to some degree it puts us all at risk, and I'm all in support of this, and I'm sure I'll have the chief's support on that as well.
Anybody with comments, questions?
What was the impetus of the initial bill, why it was taken out?
Profiling.
Okay, if there aren't any questions on the dais, I would like to give the chief some time on this to give us his point of view on how if it opens up opportunities for more safety for his crew as well as a tool for use.
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to speak to that. And as our Councilman Weir has said,
Don't you dare call me Congressman.
Senator or something. The bill was originally written, or the proponents of it was written for the simple fact that they felt that there was an issue that police officers were targeting individuals of color. But this issue is not about race, and it's really not about politics. It's about the flat-out safety of our vehicles on our roadways and the safety of the citizens that's traveling. Having this bill brought back into law enforcement wheelhouse would be a very, very good thing with 3 extremely positive results. One is our families, our friends, our relatives, and us would be much, much safer traveling on the roadways. And quite frankly, I'll reference a peer-reviewed paper from Dr. Eric Behrens from NYU, who'd done a study in 2016 in Massachusetts, and I'm just culminating this long paper, and no shocker to anybody, that when traffic enforcement is decreased, roadway accidents with injuries increase significantly. And if you read the whole paper, there'll be percentages that would really shock you, but I didn't want to get into all that. And also during periods of reduced traffic enforcement, there was a corresponding reduction in the deterrent. So basically, more people sped, more people had traffic violations, more people had equipment violations because they knew the police wasn't doing anything about it. They were allowing it. And we have proof of that right here in Haymarket. We just made a stop 2 weeks ago where the individual's inspection sticker was 12 months overdue. 12 months, right? So there you go. That's a perfect example of what this doctor wrote in this peer-reviewed paper, is that he felt, okay, well, I had 4 months, I might as well just take a year. And if he hadn't gotten pulled over for speeding, he would probably still be out there with that vehicle in violation.
Are we saying that the way the bill is today, without this change, you can't do that?
He could have been stopped at the 4-month period. For inspection stickers and registrations, 4 month plus 1 day is when we can actually make a stop for that violation. Now, it's still, this is one of the poorest pieces of legislation I've ever seen in my career. But at that point, we are still not in any type of an evidentiary collection mode. Anything we see from that stop is negated. We cannot go further. All right? There's nothing else that we can act on. If there's another criminal offense there, we're not allowed to conduct that as part of that traffic stop. And of course, the law being a year old, there's been no case law set precedence. You know, what happens if you pull somebody over for an expired inspection at 4 months and 1 day and there's a body in the seat? Well, that's evidence. I mean, obviously you have to act, but is it negated? There's been no case law that's set a precedent there, but there would be if this legislation continues in its current form. Another aspect, the department over the years has averaged between 20 to 40 DUIs a year. Currently, here we are February 7th, 1 DUI. These tools that's taken from us, those separate criminal offenses that they're looking at that we investigate, keeps unsafe drivers off the road, not just unsafe vehicles. This legislation, again, and I won't quote what a tenured chief in Virginia said about it, because I would rather water it down than what he said on the dais here, but sit there and say, this is the worst piece of legislation I've ever seen. 2, it would assist us in stopping other criminals, other crimes, not just the DUIs and not just the more extravagant. But keep in mind, you'll hear these names. I know that most of you have heard these names. Ted Bundy, Randy Kraft, Joel Rifkin, and Larry Eller, and Timothy McVeigh. Killed over 274 people, and you know how they were caught? A traffic stop.
Right.
Timothy McVeigh killed 168 people, including 19 kids, and a license plate violation caught him. Right? So when you look at that, the impact is huge. And then 3, the vehicles driven by our citizens will be safer. Most people don't realize they have a brake light out. You know why? They can't attest to the brake light because they have to push the pedal, and you can't be in 2 places at one time. And a lot of people, especially us with a little bit poor vision, might not notice a headlight out. So without an officer providing that public service to stop that vehicle and say, hey, Roberto, you have a light out. And most of the time, they're very, very thankful. And you know what? If it happens to trip into something else, that there's a crime being committed in other ways, well, then we have that right to go forward. But the thing is to make the road safer. And the majority of the people that we stop are just like what Mr. Weir said. Hey, thankful that you let me know that I had a light out. I did not know. So these are very, very positive things. And the only people that has heartburn about this is the people committing criminal offenses and drunk driving. The people like Mr. Weir, who just wants to know their lights out, don't have a problem with it. They're very thankful. We tell them and they move on. They go on their merry way. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, I fully support HB 79, even with the watered-down language. I'm not really concerned about that. The fact is that with that language, going over it with Mr. Weir earlier, we can still provide that public service and make the streets and the vehicles safer in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Simple as that.
I was thinking about Ted Bundy, but I'm not going to go there.
You know an interesting fact about that real quick?
With the Volkswagen Beetle?
Right. He was caught 3 times. Remember, he was caught, and they found evidence of violent crime in his vehicle, and then they was able to finger him as this person, this mass murderer, this serial killer.
I think that was in
He
Colorado.
escaped.
Yeah.
He escaped, caught a second time on a traffic stop. He escaped a second time, caught on a traffic stop. Simple as that.
So he was a bad driver.
Yeah, exactly.
So wouldn't most of these offenses, you wouldn't pass as state inspection anyway? If my taillights didn't work, if my exhaust. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. So to me, I guess that's the way I'm looking at it, is if we're seeing these as safety features that we evaluate on a yearly basis and we'll deadline a vehicle for not having a majority of these addressed, then I don't see why the police shouldn't have the same discretion. So.
Correct, and they also took that tool away when they put the 4-month extension. So now you could drive 16 months legally without even knowing that you had a light out. And in, like with this peer review paper who said that it's not, and since there's no deterrent, an example I gave you right here in Haymarket on Jefferson, but the guy was a year past due.
So I think for our jurisdiction and our culture, I would say that I'm less concerned about, I don't want to dismiss the profiling that led to it initially, and hopefully there's other efforts underway to reduce whatever the impetus was that started this, but I don't think that this is the right tool to address.
Correct, it's not, but there is a tool for that. It's called body-worn cameras.
Gotcha.
And when a supervisor, such as myself, reviews the footage from traffic stops, he would know that if he had an officer that was stepping outside of the lines and truly profiling people, and he would be able to eradicate that officer from his office.
Good
Simple
point.
as that.
Thank you.
And body camera review by supervisors is mandatory now, correct?
Correct. And it's an excellent training tool. It's not just the fact that you're looking for officers like that would step outside or not know what they're doing, but a training tool for are they conducting the stop or the interaction with the public correct?
So is the camera review random, or is it triggered by something?
It would depend on the circumstances, but we try to do it randomly. And now, if there was a specific
Like a
incident
sample
that would
size.
require for that review, yes. And then, if you wanted to see a trend, say it was a complaint, a use of force complaint, then you would go back and see if there was issues that were consistent with it, if you hadn't known it before. But it's always best to go back as much as you can and look at the footage. And we found it, especially here with the caliber of officers we have, it's just a training thing. Hey, you might want to look at this when you do that, or hey, don't forget to touch that trunk lid, or just those little specific points. We don't find any incidences of impropriety on the cameras, or we haven't, and I don't expect to.
If I can, unless.
Anyone else with questions?
Yeah. So we kind of talked about this a little bit the other day. My biggest concern with the bill is the whole concept of profiling. Believe it or not, there was a time when I used to look a lot different. Back in the day when I was in the 60s and 70s, and I was profiled a number of times because of my appearance. So I have a real affinity and concern about the profiling aspect. I think what you've said kind of helps negate that concern.
It's another avenue to look. There's still going to be bad apples in the trough, no matter where you go.
And that's the concern.
But if you do the best you can, if your supervisor, if your leadership is doing what they're supposed to do, it'll weed them out.
And accountability.
Exactly. And of course, even though there's still those bad apples, we've come a long way since the 60s.
Exactly.
I mean, not that I was alive then. I'm just saying we've come a long way.
Well, now I feel old. Well,
You and I both.
Yeah. I get what Ken is saying too. I would prefer to have had this on the work session agenda so that people have, no, just.
I get it.
I know,
and
I know, there's extenuating circumstances.
I'll give a mea culpa on this. I just did not have enough time to get it out for next to last week. I just, with everything else going on, I, quite frankly, just flat ran out of time.
You know, and the other concern is, given the fact that there have been some adjustments already in amendments, who knows what's going to happen again? Whether stuff gets put back in, that might be objectionable, stuff gets taken out, I don't know. But if it's contained to operational conditions for a vehicle, I don't have a problem with that.
You know, this is restricted to the version that's been referred by
committee?
By committee to the floor.
Okay.
Not to any amendment, not to any amendments or amended version of it.
All right.
It's to the current version, which is limited to the safety equipment.
I mean, this whereas with the provisions regarding the illumination of license plates and what have you, I think that's critical. I think that's really important.
And that's why I took the second whereas out, which had the marijuana and the other social stuff in it.
Although, I mean, I think that should be treated the same way as alcohol, but that's a different issue.
That's a different story.
That's a different issue. You know, from my career, working in the regulatory environment on trains for 42 years, it was critical to have the proper safety equipment and the proper equipment working and functioning on your locomotive and your cars. So I'm okay with that. I think I'm okay with this, and that's my comment.
Okay. Mary?
I will say, as an elected official who's taken an oath of office to do what's, you know, what represents my constituents, but also in their best interest. And like you said, a vehicle would not pass, you know, inspection without these things. And so saying that I'm an advocate for allowing our officers to enforce that same principle, I think, again, that upholds the office that I'm honored to be in. So I have no problem supporting this. I don't feel like this is political at all. I feel like it's my duty in a way. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Okay. Anyone else? Now, do we have this in a motion or a second, or? Okay.
I'll move resolution 2022/001.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. I think we've exhausted the discussion. Up for vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call, please. Yeah, makes sense.
Weir?
Aye.
Passanello?
Aye.
Pater?
Yes.
Schneider?
Yes.
Ramirez?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'll run through the next two really quickly.
One quick comment. Through our discussions, I see the benefit of this. I don't feel that it is political. I will not impose a veto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
HB 616, something that Joe and I had a hand in drafting, and actually has application to the town. I'm going to let Joe speak a little further with respect to the county, but there seems to be a real disconnect between a BZA being appointed to do a job and the BZA's ability to do that job if it's not adequately funded by the jurisdiction that names it. When I was in Richmond last week talking to several of the delegates about this bill, one of them actually raised the issue of, well, I think Delegate Rome should put a minimum amount that the county, or excuse me, that the jurisdiction should fund. And the point that I made to that particular delegate was it's all a matter of scale. A county like Fairfax or Prince William County, the BZA meets twice a month. A BZA in a place like Haymarket meets once a decade. There were some initial issues with VML. The delegates met with VML and has come to some concord with VML to where they're near neutral. Well, VML, my understanding, is now neutral on this. VACO still has its reservations, but quite frankly, and I'll state this publicly, I don't give a damn what VACO or VML think. As I told several of the delegates the other day, VML and VACO represent the interests of the elected officials. They do not represent the interests of the jurisdictions they purport to represent, and they sure as hell don't represent the residents and the taxpayers in those jurisdictions. Generally, their positions are designed to protect the electeds, and quite frankly, I don't care about myself as an elected official or the rest of them. It's either good for the public, it's either good public policy, or it's not. And in this particular instance, I believe it will provide the funding necessary for the BZA to do its important job.
And on that note, I would like to say I like getting our hands forced to appropriate money for it. I feel this is also a benefit because it will generate private industry to create training sessions for this so that we can at least educate our BZA staff and get them up to speed with what's required for BZA processes and procedures.
You stole my thunder.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
You don't get a vote.
I get a voice.
This, to Bob's point, and I mean, we know that we need training. I mean, we fund the BZA like we do our other boards and commissions, but we're going to have to take another look at it during the budgeting process regarding the fact that they need to get this training desperately. And it's really important. I've been through the 39th annual training through VCU. It's a 3-day program. It's worth every penny. So we would have to look at something like that. I'm also working to get them training on a refresher that we're looking at doing in March now. It was supposed to be February, but we couldn't work it out. The other thing, though, that's really important here is one of the issues that we were confronted with on the county side was having legal advice, legal counsel beyond what is available. There are times when the county attorney or the town attorney is in a conflicting or an adversarial situation where the BZA cannot really talk to the town attorney or county attorney to get advice on questions of legality, perhaps conflicts of interest and what have you. And what we're seeking to do here is just to make the expenditure or the funding for such an item more affirmative. The way the law was written seemed to be a little squirrely in my mind anyway. So we wanted to make sure that BZAs have that opportunity to have outside counsel from time to time. So that's what it's all about for me.
Anybody have any questions?
Just one last note, because this also came up in the discussion with the delegates last week. Some of them were questioning the cost and I heard those dreaded words, unfunded mandate. And I sort of liken it to the AMCO commercial, pay me now or pay me later. The cost of going into litigation, for a jurisdiction to go into litigation, as we are all too well aware, over a BZA decision, the cost of that litigation pales, the cost of the legal advice that could have been given pales in comparison to the cost of the legislative litigation. Essentially, one court case would probably fund 50 BZA opinions if they needed counsel. And believe it or not, once I made that argument, a couple of the delegates are like, oh, okay, yeah, you're probably right. So.
It's preventative maintenance.
I think
In that case, I would
motion, please.
In that case, I would move resolution 2022/002.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
Is it 3, isn't it? No, it's 3.
Yes,
No, it's 2.
It is 2?
I have resolution support of House bill disclosure and land use proceedings statewide.
Oh, no, that's 2.
That's 6,
No.
2,
Oh,
6.
I've got my own numbers
6,
here.
1, 6.
I'm sorry. I was just going in numerical order, so I did, because I got blanks. Okay, 2003, sorry.
So amended.
So amended.
Second.
Okay, got a second on that. Okay, let's put it up for vote.
Weir.
All right.
Papsanello.
Aye.
Cater.
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Ramirez. Morris.
Yes.
And last but not least, this was another one that we worked on with Delegate Rome. And essentially what it is a transparency bill. These rules currently apply in Loudoun by statute, and in Fairfax by board policy, but they do not apply anywhere else in the state of Virginia. In essence, what it requires is that if you take a contribution in excess of $100 within 1 calendar year from any party to a land use application, and that party appears before you with a land use application in the form of a rezoning SUP or comp plan, you must disclose that contribution in writing, verbally, and recuse yourself from the vote.
Oh, this was already on the books.
Only for Loudoun County.
No, when I first came on here, there was a limit.
Not that I'm aware of. We don't report,
Not at the state level,
we don't
I
file
guess.
reports.
You're thinking of gifts, I think.
Oh, maybe that was
Conflict of interest, maybe?
Yeah.
$25. Yes.
The only comment I have is the last sentence. It should be House Bill 626, not 616. Yeah, typo there.
Changed.
So,
What happens when I write
if
too
this
many?
goes through the state, is it really necessary for the town? If it's approved at the state level?
These are just in support. These are going up to Delegate Rome, who puts these on the
Okay.
floor, saying, I got support from these jurisdictions who want this in place. That's what these resolutions are for.
I mean, we should have an interest in it because it does affect us, being in Prince William County.
And the county is lobbying for and against several of these bills and others. Although, I'll be honest with you, I don't think half the Board of Supervisors know what the county lobbyists are lobbying for or against, as I've found in the past.
Yeah, pick up your fight somewhere else. So, if this is approved in Richmond, can Prince William County then not support this? Can a county not support this if it's approved in Richmond?
No, if they adopt this in Richmond and they enact it, then they have to do it.
Okay.
It becomes statutory. Yeah,
So
it
this
becomes
is
law.
basically just in support of it, sending
Yes.
it there to support.
Yeah, this is not creating our own little statutory realm. This is strictly supporting what's in.
Statewide. Well, I have a feeling it's going to be restricted down to Planning District 8, which is Northern Virginia, which would restrict it to Loudoun, Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Prince William.
Prince William. Fauquier's not in that. huh?
Fauquier is not in Planning District 8.
Interesting.
Neither is Stafford.
Okay, I think we got a motion and a second, right? No?
I'll move Resolution 2022/002.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. I didn't really give much of a discussion, last chance for discussion. Let's put it up to vote.
Weir.
All right.
Passanello.
All right.
Pater.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
Ramirez.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, without objection, I would have the clerk forward 002 and 003 to Delegate Rome and each member of Subcommittee 2 of County, Cities, and Towns, and Resolution 001 to the patron, Speaker of the House, and the House Minority Leader. That
Good idea.
should be sufficient, right?
That should be plenty.
Okay, no objections to that direction? And we're good on that. Point of information, do you need me to sign all these resolutions before you send them off? Okay.
Signed by the clerk. It's signed by the clerk. It's our resolution.
Okay, next item, texting service, Akai software?
I'll keep it very brief.
Akai?
We recently received the annual bill for the texting service. It is $1,700. I flagged it last week in looking over everything. This is not a service that we utilize to its maximum potential. We have roughly probably 250 to 300 people that have signed up for it. And just about every time we send out a text, we see more people drop off of it. It's a system we go online and we can type out something that's 160 characters or less and send information out. If you were to think of it in numbers, if you divide it by sending a text out every day, that is $4.66 every day to send a text to people. again, we do not utilize this service, so we want to talk with council. Is this something you would like us to use? Typically, when we've used it in the past, it was for very emergency purpose related items. For example, when the gas main broke on Jefferson Street in late 2017 or early 2018, we utilized it then. However, again, last year, I don't think we used it once. If it's not something council wants to proceed with, if you would like to give us the directive, we can reach out and try to get out of the contract if possible. If not, we can set that into motion for the next year and we can find text to send.
Don't we have the technology now? Or Chief, do you have the technology? If there's a mass sort of thing, reverse 911 or?
There is that. We also have been partnered with Prince William County.
Okay.
They have a mass blast alert.
Okay.
That a lot of people are already included in. I mean, I get the alerts from Prince William. So there's a secondary service that you could use at basically no cost.
Okay.
Maybe we need to,
If it's something of that magnitude, Prince William will be here next.
Gotcha.
Right.
Thank you.
we should promote that then too.
Yeah, and the difficulty, before I'll give it to you, and the difficulty here, of course, is, people need to register for it. And if they don't register for it, nothing ever gets transmitted to them. And I think that's what's probably happening mainly with this. I mean, I'm a member of it, and I think the last thing I got was ring the bell for the first responders for COVID. So, Mary?
As a millennial, I might sound crazy, but I don't enjoy getting text messages unless if it's from like emergency personnel or like loved ones. That's pretty much my limitation there. So I don't know if I necessarily want the town texting me about like sales in town or whatever. And for $1,700, I don't really see a value for us to continue that, especially with such low low commitment from the community in using it. So I would really love for us to seek out other opportunities. And I just want to put on the record, I would discourage you from finding text to send. Like, I know you were saying, like, get your money's worth out of them, but please, I guess somebody who really does not like getting random spam text messages, please don't do that. So that's just my piece.
We could reallocate that $1,700 to a better social media option.
Roberta.
Option.
That
Not a
doesn't
job.
pay for another person.
Not a job, an option.
Yeah, I know what your I know what option is a code word for.
Okay, I'll let the Vice Mayor go next.
I concur with Emily, thank you very much. I would do that. I also feel like our constituents are already telling us that they're not wanting it because when we've sent it out, they're asking to be removed. So I feel like that's kind of dictating the direction.
Okay, Bob?
I sort of, when Emily showed us the bill the other day at the finance liaison meeting, I sort of hit the roof. Quite frankly, if we're not using it more than once a year and we're paying $1,700 for it, yeah, it's gone. I mean, unfortunately, we're under the gun. I'm not sure we can get out from under the contract this year, but
Certainly not renew it.
yeah, certainly not renew it. But if we can pull out of it, I mean, I get the county one. It's not that obnoxious. Most days it's only 1 to 4. Sometimes on bad traffic days it's 43, but so be it. But I get a lot of other stuff from them, like Planning Commission or Board of Supervisors agendas. And if we can tie into that seamlessly and at no cost, and I don't see why they wouldn't let us do that, particularly if it's coming from the chief. Yeah, I think that it's a more effective, wider reaching, probably better option than paying $1,700 for something we're not going to use.
Yep, and even if we take a penalty hit for reducing releasing our contract, it's still better than $1,700 expense, right? So, I don't know what direction we need to go with this. I'm assuming all we got to do is give you a directive?
That would be it.
Mr. Mayor, just one last question. How long have we had this service?
A while,
I know we've had it 4 years.
maybe longer.
It's probably been longer. I would say in the 4 years I've been here, the most that I ever sent out was during COVID when we were home, and a lot of those messages were about ringing bells for first responders at a certain hour.
So you were texting people at midnight?
we're realizing how much money we could be saving over the last 4 years. Good job.
Without objection, I would I would direct the town manager to extricate ourselves from that contract.
No objection.
On top of that, do we need to have the chief research the other viable options?
Direct him so.
Direct him so.
You got that, chief?
Duly noted, sir.
Just for the record, no objections?
No objection.
Okay. Let's move on then. We're into council member time. Councilmember Morris.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I just have 2 items. The carried to full term was selected by the Prince William County Human Rights Commission as one of the recipients of the 2021 Human Rights Award. The commission selected carried to full term for their work in providing long-term housing support of pregnant and homeless women. They're in our community, and I think it would be a good gesture to invite someone from their organization to share with us as to what it is that they're doing, if you don't mind, sir. My last item has to do with Valentine's Day. It's coming up. You were warned. Thank you, sir.
Will you be my Valentine? Will you be my Valentine?
I find a Valentine from you in my mailbox. It's gonna be a problem.
Some kissy sweets. I'll get you.
Okay, going around the dais, Councilmember Ramirez.
Thank you. I first want to piggyback off of what Chris ended his on, Councilman Morris. With Valentine's Day, I want to encourage everybody to shop local. There's tons of wonderful shops here in town. We have Melanie's Florist. We have tons of sweets everywhere. Lots of yummy places to eat. So support our local businesses and shop local. And then I do want to draw a huge attention to Emily Huffman's work on the social media platforms. I especially loved her DMV Select video. I thought that was a really, really nice, fresh way to address this new offering and to guide people. For a while there, I was in customer service and doing it virtually, working from home. These little instructional videos or little snapshots as to what people can expect really helps guide them through the next steps and is really encouraging and makes people feel more comfortable. So I love that she did that on her own. That really means a lot. So please make sure you tell her thank you and that it was really well received. Other than that, that's it.
Councilman Schneider.
Okay. Chief, if you can let your men know, out of sight's not out of mind. I've been distracted with other things and not had the regular interaction with them. But folks see them in the community. They're thankful for their presence. Also got some kudos on the sidewalks, clearing the sidewalks quickly, so I appreciate staff support of that. What's that?
I just see the bill.
Yeah. Nonetheless, I think it's a service we provide. A couple of things I think we're going to focus, or hopefully do our strategic planning to focus our final months in this term. Would like to, with the hotel opening, Emily, if we could, if you have capacity, look at the signage again. If we could, the building signage for town hall and police station, if we could look at our budget and see if we can get that done. I also too like to get, and I'll talk to the ARB about it again, getting the windows and doors replaced on the outbuilding to Cupcake Heaven out back and get that squared away. And then just make a concerted effort with the spring coming to make sure we dress up the town and make it presentable. And the last thing too, looking at the park building too, if we have some, now that the other opportunity has moved on, if there's some ability to look at a relatively low cost solution for being able to reprogram that building for folks to meet as necessary. So priorities for things to come. Other than that, thanks everybody.
Councilwoman Bader.
So I wanted to say again, congratulations, Roberto. Thank you very much. The Business Roundtable, the quarterly event will be March 8th. I will be here tomorrow morning though, so please feel free to stop by, ask me questions, visit for a minute. And then I will piggyback on Councilperson Mary Ramirez as far as shop local. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Passanello.
Well, first thing is, Marshawn, I'm glad you're staying in town. So congratulations on your new home, and look forward to continuing to work with you. Chief, thank you for that discussion on HB 79. I thought it was very, very helpful and clarifying for a lot of people, so I thank you for that. Mary, Councilmember Ramirez, I agree about Emily Huffman. I have a note here, thank Emily Huffman for pitching in and taking on more assignments. I just think she stepped up, and really glad she's part of your team working here. And yeah, she's really, she's a go-getter. And what was my last one? Yes, Lidl. I hope the comments that we heard today from Lidl don't come to pass. I hope that they'll still want to come here in town. I think this is still a good place to do business, and we'll see what happens as we go forward. So thank you very much.
Councilman Weir.
I've said quite enough tonight.
Okay, I see I don't get a chance to make any comments. But I will. The only thing I want to say is I do have, there is a page too? But yeah, I'd like to say that Mayor Walk is this Saturday, 9 o'clock. Everybody else has pretty much said what I would like to have said. Ditto on all that, Chief, your crew, and Emily and administrative staff, your support, everything else. That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion and a second. Who do you want to give motion to?
We'll give it to Mr. Passanello first.
Okay, Joe, you get the motion. Mary, you get the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Bye.